Morning today. It's early this morning and thought I would make a video based on a passage in Matthew. So if you'd like to turn with me to Matthew 5, and I'm sure this one will sound familiar to you. It's about Jesus saying that as Christians, we're not to take measures to strike back at someone when we're wronged. It's against retaliation, and this is one of the most difficult passages to take hold of because we will nod our heads and say that we agree with this formally. But when it comes down to it and situations are difficult, we take matters into our own hand. I'm sure you'll recognize that I'm looking at Matthew 5, verse 38, and let me read it to you from the English Standard Version, where it says, "You've heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, but I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who borrows from you." Now you see, of course, Jesus' authority here being unmistakably displayed. "You have heard it said to you." He's quoting, of course, from the Old Testament law of Moses, and he's saying, these are the Old Testament laws, but I say to you. Now, is he abrogating or annulling or making void the Old Testament laws? No, he's fulfilling them. He's going deeper now into what is really our whole orientation and our psyche and our heart's motivation here. And he's talking again about people wronging us. We live in a time where so much is said about our rights. This is my right, and therefore I will take action. And in this country and in this time, oftentimes this, of course, involves legal action. I have the right because of how they wrong me to do this and that. So we think. And certainly God would want me to stand up for myself. And so it goes. Jesus said, you heard in the Old Testament law, someone puts out your eye, you put out their eye. And so we hire these lawyers to strike back, right? Justice, as we say. Justice, fairness, equality, my rights, and so forth. He says, looking there at verse 38, you've heard that it was said, if someone takes your eye, you take their eye. If someone knocks out your front tooth, you take their tooth, right? An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They cut off your hand, you cut off their hand. They take your foot, you take their foot. However they strike you, you strike them back, and it's within your rights. We think of that in terms of ourselves and how we have every right to demand equal payment for what was taken from us. This, of course, plays into divorces. I think probably this somehow plays into when a family member dies and there is a will. You know, I have this right to have this, and he wanted me to have that. And if, again, families are splitting apart, this is mine, this is mine. Doesn't that sound like little children, right? One of the first words that little ones learn is mine, 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 mine. This is mine. What does Jesus say? To the contrary. But I say to you, verse 39 there, do not resist one who is evil. Well, that makes me a coward then. That makes me weak. Jesus would look at us right in the eyes and say, does it? That's the way you're used to thinking. That you should insist upon what is yours. I mean, this is a person with, as we would say, backbone. They've ripped you off. You have every right to take action, to punish, to do whatever. Now, of course, every situation has its own variables. But he says, but I say to you, do not resist. We're talking about attitude here. We're talking about action here. Do not resist. Do not instantly strike back. Do not get this attitude that you have every right to take strong action. Do not just assume that. On the contrary, he says, and notice he does say, by the way, in the end of 39 there, resisting one who is evil. And so we rationalize to ourselves, but they're wrong. They're completely unfair in this, and they probably are. Weren't they unfair to Jesus all the way through his public ministry? But I say to you, if anyone, looking at verse 39 again, slaps you on the right cheek, and that hurts, turn to him the other one also. But he's already hurt this side. Why would I let him hurt this side? That's just letting someone get away with it. Jesus, again, might say something like, for now, at the end, all of us will stand before the bar of God's judgment. And we will have to give an account for our lives and explain why we did what we did and why we didn't do what we didn't do. If they slap you on one side, don't instantly reach out to slap them. Turn to them the other cheek. This is not in any way talking about military action necessarily. This is not talking about self-defense, protecting one's family. We are to protect our families in terms of, personal danger and harm and these kinds of things. This is not about that. This is talking about something deeper inside ourselves, where we are taking up arms in our spirit against a person who has clearly wronged us. They've taken advantage of us. I don't think Jesus would say, no, they haven't. No, he's saying they're taking advantage of us, because he goes there in verse 40. Now, again, these are hypotheticals in one way, but they're the practical illustrations. Verse 40, if anyone would take you to court and sue you, well, what was that all about? We don't know, but let's just say here we are in court, and there's been some great misunderstanding, and they end up taking your tunic. A tunic was a long undershirt. We would say it's something like a t-shirt. And this was right next to the skin. And then over that would be your cloak, a coat. So you'd have this long undergarment and covering over that. And what is he saying there? Someone takes this long t-shirt away from you. You get cheated in court, perhaps. They sue you and they take away your tunic. Let him have your cloak as well. But then, God, I'll be naked. I won't have anything. You'll have the Lord's provision. Do you trust God to take care of you? And we so quickly say, yes, of course. But do you really? When things are taken from me, there have been times when people have cheated me and taken advantage. And instantly there's something inside, a visceral sense of, I need to hold on to what is mine. Jesus says, resist that. And I've had to just let it go. Because God, I know, as you do too, is able to provide when other people Do not provide when other people rob us from what we should have. If anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. They take your shirt, give him your coat as well. And if anyone forces you, verse 41, to go 1 mile, they keep pushing you and taking up your time and expecting you to do more and more and more. You say, well, if I did that, I wouldn't have any time for anything. Well, God sets the boundaries. There are parameters to things, true. But the point is, if they're pushing you, don't instantly say, I don't have the ability, I don't have the time. I'm not going to do that with you. You're not going to take advantage of me. And there are people who will suck up all of your time if you let them. And we say, well, I can't do that because then it's cheating other people. And God doesn't know that. And God doesn't know your schedule. God will give us the wisdom to know how to handle these kinds of circumstances. But what he's saying there is, again, resist this automatic sense of the need to retaliate. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. You know, we've had people take advantage of us. I need this. Can you give me this? People standing on the street corner. I can't give out everything. If I did that, I wouldn't have anything to live on. Again, God will give us wisdom, but the point is, don't necessarily just say, no, go, do this, take care of it yourself. But rather, he's arguing for compassion, because there's times when we're in need. Do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. But if I do that, he'll take advantage of me. She'll keep taking and taking and taking. And some people are there are takers and there are givers, to put it simply. And some people, they never learn to truly give. You don't learn to truly give until you give of your offerings to God. I'm talking tangibly, monetarily. If you don't know how to give financially, you haven't really learned to give to God. You're just fooling yourself. That's a sham. You have to learn to give. And that one who hasn't learned to give refuses to give and keeps taking from the generous ones around them. Shame on them. And if they come to you, Jesus says, give. Let your orientation be one of generosity and mercy, and trust in God that he will make the wrong right. Do not retaliate. Do not strike back, says Jesus. Let go of that pernicious spirit within you and trust me to level things out. Some strong words, some real tough words, I think, from Jesus. Jesus had many hard sayings, and people didn't know what to do with him so much of the time. But may the Lord give us wisdom in these things. I welcome your comments always. Share this video if it touched you in any way, and God's blessings to you this day and this week.